Well, hello heroes and villains, my name is Ash and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while, but I am finally back and I am here to talk about my first side quest for my readathon. My readathon is the Library of Dragons Readathon. I started last year in November. There is currently only chapter 1, and then right now this is going to be the first side quest that is going to be between chapter 1 and chapter 2. This does start from March 1st and go to the end of March, but this can be done anytime you want. You do not have to do this in a certain time frame. This is completely up to you. It just officially starts in March, but this can be done at any time you want. If you have not watched the first video, you probably haven't completed the first chapter. In order to take part in the side quest, you must finish chapter 1 before you start the first side quest. If you don't know what side quests are, they're essentially what you use in role-playing games or games in general that you kind of use for EXP, or experience. So this is mostly here just to get experience. You don't actually have to complete side quests. These are completely optional. The only things you actually have to complete in order is chapters. So it's chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, you have to do them in order, but side quests can be done in any order you want. If you complete the side quest, you can potentially get 3 points of trust, which will give you 5 total, which will give you your first perk. So I do recommend doing side quests if you want to get your perks. Now this is a Dungeons & Dragons kind of based readathon. I created this because I love Dungeons & Dragons. This is not an exact replica, so if you play D&D or if you're someone that doesn't even know anything about it, I'm going to do my best to explain it to you as I go in my documents and in my videos. Like I said, this is not a perfect replica. There's a few things I've taken away because it's a bit too difficult and a little bit too much information, so I try to make it a little bit easier, but this is based off of D&D. It's not a exact replica. We will eventually be making rolls, not yet. Chapter 3 will be the first time we actually make rolls, but in this video I will be completing our character sheets, which is fun, and then also going to be going into a path with our dragon, traversing through the lands and getting to our realm, which will be chapter 2. And I'm really excited about chapter 2. It's going to be a bigger and more difficult route to take, but side quests are very easy. So in chapter 1, we either hatched, tamed, met, got to know our dragons, and now we are going to be, like I said, traversing through different lands and environments to get to our realm that will inevitably become chapter 2. Since my first video that was a bit chaotic and didn't have a lot of order, I'll be honest, it wasn't the best in regards to how it was done. I'm trying to get a lot better with my documents. I have things I need to talk about. I have pictures, I have art. There's things I drew that took me hours to do, by the way. A lot of things I've been trying to make a bit more organized so you can all have more visually appealing things, that including Excel sheets. I have a document that has all the Excel sheets. I have things explaining how to make your character sheets. I have FAQs so you can have questions that have been asked frequently. So I have a lot more sheets, a lot more things on my Google document or my Google Drive that we'll put in the description below. So if you need some help with that, you can go ahead and do that. I also will talk about more about the point tracker system. I have fixed it to make it a little bit more easy to keep track of your points. I will talk about that at the end of the video to explain how that works and how to copy it onto your pre-existing Excel sheet. So before we begin, there's 2 things I want to mention. One regarding points and one regarding character sheets, finishing off our character sheets. So we're going to talk about the prompts soon. I'm sorry, I'm going to be talking a lot, rambling a lot, but if you want to skip ahead, look at the prompts and then come back, you can do that. But I do definitely recommend at least listening to some of this. If you want to put it on like 2 times speed, I don't blame you. Starting from side quest 1, so not including chapter 1, so starting from this point forward, if you read 50% of your TBR from the start of where you started the prompt to the last prompt in either the side quest or chapter, so at least 50%. If you read diversely, you will get an extra point of trust. Chapters usually only give you 1 point of trust. If you read at least 50% of your TBR when you start and when you end a chapter or side quest, you will be getting a second one for your chapters. And then side quests usually give you 2 points of trust, but if you read diversely at least 50% of that TBR, you will get an extra point. So you can get 3 for every side quest and 2 for every chapter, which means that if you complete a side quest and chapter and you read at least 50% diversely for both of them, you get 5 points, which will give you your perk. Like I said, it has to be at least 50%. So if you're reading 5 books, 3 of them have to be diverse. If you're reading 6, obviously 3 of them have to be diverse. Now, if you want to know what kind of books are diverse or what I mean by diverse, it's kind of up to you as long as you're being fair. If you aren't sure what diverse really means, I would say anything that's written by a BIPOC author, BIPOC characters, mostly though written by own voices authors. If it is a book about BIPOC characters that's not written by a BIPOC author, I would recommend having it be someone that has very well knowledge in it. I think Shannon Chakraborty that did the Daevabad trilogy, I don't believe she's from the Middle East, but she has a lot of information, knowledge. I think she's lived there or visited there a lot in her life. So I would say that maybe the Daevabad trilogy would work, but try to be reading own voices when it comes to BIPOC characters. Either authors who are LGBTQIA+, or characters that are. Own voice is obviously preferable, but sometimes authors don't tell their sexuality or their preferences, which is completely valid and fine. Please be fair with this as well. If there's a character that's like a very, very side character who says that they're gay, don't count that, please. That doesn't really count in my opinion. There's also disability representation, mental health representation, plus size representation, anything that you would say is diverse, anything at least 50%. I would have liked to have this been more than 50%, but the reason why I didn't do that is because it would have been harder to calculate, and I just didn't want to have people have to ask me constantly, what's 75% of 5 books? It would have been really hard for me to round up and down, so I decided to put at 50, but obviously try to read diversely in general, and read more than 50%, I would recommend that. The newer point tracker will have that on the Excel sheet that I will be putting in the description below. So now we're going to talk about character sheets. We're going to be filling out the rest of our character sheet. If you haven't already chosen a fictional race yet, make sure you choose one. If you don't know what to choose from, you can choose from any kind of fantasy-based thing ever. So like video games, movies, books, anything that has any type of fictional race in it, you can pick that. Similar to that, you can do readathons, like I am doing the Aurelium readathon, and my character is an Eltarian, who's like a shape-shifting, like pointy ears, that kind of character with glowing red eyes. You can even do humans, by the way. It doesn't have to be fantasy-based, but humans do count. So once you have your race chosen, now we're going to be moving on to class. It's going to be a little bit tricky to explain. I'm going to try my best to do so in a small amount of time, but essentially what we're going to be doing is our class. Classes depend on a lot of different things. We have some classes that have magic as their main weapons. We have characters who have secondary magic weapons, so they'll use weapons and magic, and then we have characters that don't really use magic at all. I'm going to briefly talk about classes as quickly as I can. We're going to start with our strength-based classes. We have barbarians, paladins, and fighters. We have the paladins, who are heavily armored, and they are usually the protectors, but also ones that can bring judgment onto others. They are under a god's oath, so that way they actually have to fulfill the oath of their god. We have barbarians and fighters, which are just like the heavy hitters. They want to have a lot of defense, and they hit hard with either two-handed weapons or a weapon and a shield. Usually barbarians don't have shields. They usually have two-handed weapons, but paladins and fighters are commonly seen either with a two-handed weapon or a sword and shield. We have our dexterity classes. We have monk, blood hunters, and rogues. Rogues don't usually have magic, but they usually have bows and daggers because they're the stealthy ones that kind of stay in the shadows. We have blood hunters, who are kind of cool if you have a blood dragon, but they are ones that use blood magic to fight with them. So having a blood dragon and a blood hunter would be pretty cool in my opinion. We have the monk, who uses their hands, fists, and feet to fight their enemies rather than actual weapons themselves. We have sorcerers, who are under constitution. This is going to be one that is going to be very heavily spellcasting, using magic for their primary source of weapons. Under intelligence, we have wizards and artificers. Artificers are the tinkerers. They are the ones that build things. We have wizards, who have usually a huge spell book. They get their spells from scrolls and tomes. They have like the widest variety of spells, at least from my own knowledge. For wisdom, we have cleric, druids, and rangers. Rangers are usually farther away from their enemies when they're fighting. They usually use bow, archery. They like to track their enemies, and they're also really good with animals. You can have animal companions as a ranger, and this is pretty common because there's like a certain feat I think you could take to do that, which is really cool. Druids are also similar to rangers in some regard, but they have more spellcasting abilities. Druids are very in tune with earth usually. Animals as well. They can speak with animals and have animal companions. There's something called wild shape in D&D where you can actually transform into like owl bears and cats and dogs and spiders and everything like that. So you can actually shapeshift into things. I think this would actually kind of fit my character because he does shapeshift into a raven, but I chose something else, but this was a close second. We have clerics, who are usually kind of god-based. They have someone that they kind of pray to and they kind of channel some of their divinity from. They're very good with healing in my opinion. I really like to use Shadowheart in my Baldur's Gate game to heal me a lot, so they're very good with their healing properties, although they are pretty good in regards to their fighting as well. And lastly, we have charisma, which is bard and warlock. Bards are a very fun class to play as. Their primary source of magic, or their primary source of offense, is their magical instruments that they play in order to heal other people or to hurt other people or charm them, depending on your character. So they have a musical instrument that they will use as their weapon essentially, which is kind of fun and different. And then we have another class that I really enjoy. This is the last one. This is the warlocks. Warlocks are characters who are actually under the patronage of something that's higher than them, someone with more power than them, either a god, a deity, sometimes just someone that has more magic than them. For example, I made a character from D&D that her name is Natasha. Her patron is the god of death, and so she has a lot of necromantic powers and she can bring things back from the dead because of this. I told my boyfriend I kind of wish I could be a warlock for this in my readathon, because if you choose a warlock, if you really want to and you want to get, magic that's similar to your dragon, your dragon can be your patron. Your dragon can literally give you the powers that you have. And I feel like that's so cool. For example, if you have an earth dragon, maybe you can manipulate the ground and use earth magic yourself. So you can have a sword that has magic swirling around it, or like water swirling around it, blood swirling around it. You know what I'm trying to say. I love the idea of your patron being your dragon. I love that idea and that concept. So just love that. So underneath the your stats are your strength, dex, constitution, so on and so forth. Whatever that is going to be underneath, you will add a +2 to. So I'm going to be choosing a ranger. So I'm going to be getting +2 to wisdom, since ranger is underneath wisdom. And so that is what I'm going to be getting for my character. So once you add your +2 modifier to your stats, you also will be adding a +1 to any stat you want. You could put this on top of your already pre-existing +2, or you can add this onto any other one that you want to. I'm going to be adding it onto intelligence because Corvus, my character, is very smart. He's a scholar. He likes to study. So a +1 to intelligence makes sense. And then unfortunately, you have to add a -2 to another stat. So you have to choose which one you think that your character will be the weakest in. This is what his character sheet looks like currently. So I added his +2 for his class right here, which is wisdom, and then I added my +1 to my intelligence because I think that would make sense, and then I had to add my -2 to strength because I thought that would make sense for his character. If you want further explanation, I have it in the Google document. I have a whole document describing everything and hopefully making it a little bit easier to understand. So if this isn't really that clear for you, I have a document that explains everything. Once you choose your class and you put your modifiers in for chapter 3, because this is going to be useful for chapter 3 when we make our rolls, after we do that, you will be choosing a weapon. I explain it more on the document, so if you want to know more about the weapons and what your character would be wielding most likely, then you can look on there. I'm not going to explain it too much here because it would take a long time. Our higher strength characters would use sword and shields or two-handed weapons. Our rogues would use daggers and bows. Rangers would use bows mostly, or crossbows, but they can also use short-range things. Most of the people that use spellcasting will use staves, tomes, spell books, that kind of thing. So it's completely up to you. Like I said, it will be on the document to explain more, so I would recommend going on there if you need help with that. And with that, it's time to start our first side quest for the Library of Dragons Readathon. I'm going to be finally talking about the prompts and discussing the maps, so thankfully we are here, and it's been a while, but we are here. So side quest 1 starts us on an adventure. We have 3 maps to choose from. These will be determining our climate of our realms. We have the first one, which is the cooler, colder climate. This could be a place with mountaintops. This could be a place with snow. It could be just a place that's of a cool breeze. Maybe you live next to the ocean and it's just a cooler environment. That is what map 1 is going to be. We then have map 2, which is going to be an area that has changing of seasons. Maybe it doesn't have just hot or just cold. It has something in the middle. Maybe it's just tepid. Maybe it has all seasons. So you don't really have a exact map that you want to choose because you're kind of in the middle of hot and cold. This is kind of like a forest setting. This is a place that has, like I said, all 4 seasons. This is a place that maybe you just don't really know what to choose yet, or you're not really sure what your environment's going to be. So this is a really good fail-safe for that. Then we have our third map, which is going to be the hotter, warmer climate. This could be a desert setting. This could be just a hotter environment as a whole. Maybe it's a place like on the beach or somewhere near one. Just a warmer, hotter climate. It doesn't have to be a desert. I just have it on the map just to kind of like convey what it means, but it mostly just shows that it's like a warmer, hotter setting. So what you'll be doing is choosing one of these maps. You can either look at the prompts first and then decide, or you can have an idea what you're going to do before you choose your maps. So example, maybe you already know your realm is going to have a certain environment and you can choose based off of that. You might not know what your realm temperature is going to be. Like I said, if you really don't know and you don't want to make like an exact decision right now, go with the middle one. The cooler map could be more of a winter fall setting. A warmer map could be a summer spring setting. And then the middle one could be all season. So once you make your decision, or if you are unsure still, let's go over the maps themselves. Now the first 2 prompts are kind of similar to one another, so I'm going to talk about them briefly together. The first prompt we're going to be doing is not going to be actually a bookish prompt. For this, I want you to consume and share your favorite foods and drinks depending on your climates. So for map 1, eat or drink one of your favorite cold drinks or cold foods. So ice cream, salads, anything like that. That's one of your favorites. You can also do anything that's cold, which is really easy for me because I have ice cold water right next to me, although this would be cheating. So I would do something that I actually really love that's cold, that is not, water. You can also do one of each, so cold drink and cold food. If you want to, if you're comfortable doing so, you can share this on the Discord if you want to. It's not mandatory, but obviously it's recommended if you are comfortable doing it. So either put it in the photo category or in the side quest 1 category. If someone puts it in the general chat, I'm not going to be upset about it. I don't really care that much. The second map is kind of like the hardest in my opinion. This is to eat or drink something that is room temperature, something that's not really that hot or cold, something that's in the middle. It can be a little bit warm or a little bit cold, but like it's mostly just like room temperature. I feel like this is the hardest one to do because I don't really have a lot of foods I love that is like room temperature. This could be as simple as just having chips or even like leftover food. This could be baked goods. It could be anything like that, as long as it's kind of something that you can leave out without refrigerating it or putting it in the microwave. And then the last one is the easiest, in my opinion at least: a hot drink or hot food, or both if you want to. So eat one of your favorite foods that is hot, or one of your favorite drinks that's hot, or both. You can share it, you can do whatever you want. This is just more of a fun prompt you can do outside of reading, and you can even do this while you're reading if you want to. So after you start your journey and you're kind of packed up with your food and your drinks, you're going to move up north into your second prompt. All of them have the exact same prompt for the second prompt, so I'm going to talk about this over all of them as well. For this one, it's hunting and gathering. You're going to be reading a book with food on the cover. This is actually pretty simple. It doesn't have to be something your dragon has to eat or a human has to eat. It could be vice versa. So it could have something on the cover that you can eat as a person, like fruits, vegetables, ice cream, anything like that. Or you can choose something that your dragon can eat. So meat, obviously. Your dragon is an earth dragon and it consumes leaves or foliage. That works too if you really want to. If you have a celestial dragon, I don't know what they would eat. Would they eat stars? I don't know. Would that be too much? I don't know. But regardless, whatever you think, you can kind of warp this how you want it to be. But like I said, as long as it's something that you as a person can eat, or your character can eat, your dragon can eat, it works. The only exception is blood dragons. I told you if you had a blood dragon like myself, we're going to be having a little bit of a harder time. For blood dragons, you have to have at least a source of meat on the cover, although it kind of corresponds with your size of your dragon. If you have a tiny or a small dragon, you have to at least have one source of meat on at least one cover. So as long as there's one source of meat on one of your covers, you're solid. If you have a medium-sized dragon, you need to have at least two sources of meat, either on the same cover or on different covers. So 1 and 1, or just 2 in the same one. This can also be humans, by the way. If you really want to, you can make humans the source of meat, but you can also do animals or anything like that. For a large dragon, you need to have 3 minimum to have it. Like I said, it could be on the same cover, it could be on different covers, whatever you want to do, as long as it's 3. And if you have a gargantuan sized blood dragon, you need to have at least 4 sources of meat. Like I said, humans do count. Obviously, it depends on you if you want to make it accurate to your dragon or not. I'm personally not going to have humans count, only because I don't want my dragon to eat humans. And technically, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. I'm just trying to be like super critical over myself in this readathon because it's my own readathon. So I'm making it harder for myself. You will have blood reserves on your character sheet if you have a blood dragon. I already have the character sheet explanation that explains how many you should have when you start. But if you do complete this and you read the amount of books that have type of meat on the cover, you will get to bring up your reserves by a certain amount. If you have a tiny and small dragon, you can bring your reserves up by 1, so you can fill in 1 more drop of blood. If you have a medium-sized dragon and you complete getting 2 people on the cover or 2 different sources of meat on the cover, you can do 2 reserves, so you can fill in 2. If you have a large dragon like me, you can fill in 3 as long as you complete having 3 different sources of meat. And then if you have a gargantuan dragon and you do the 4, you can do 4 more reserves. I will have this on the document if this is too much information at once to explain what this is all about, but essentially, as long as you do this and you have a blood dragon, you'll be fine. If you have a blood dragon and you do not complete this, your reserves will go down, and I'll explain that in the document as well. You do not want them going down, by the way. It's dangerous. So from this point forward, we have 2 prompts and a 3rd optional prompt for every single map. So let me talk about the maps and what prompts they will be getting. Like I said, these are pretty simple ones, so these are not very difficult prompts. The difficult ones or the more difficult ones will be more in the chapters. So right now, for March, for the side quests, these are pretty simple and they shouldn't be too hard to fulfill. So starting from the colder map, you and your dragon are going to be going through the mountains and you're going to be going toward your realm. It is cool, it's cold, and you kind of have to bundle up in your clothing as you head forward. You have your stuff in your pack, you have your food, you have your drinks, and you're going to be heading up north. As you traverse up through the path, you see a path that kind of branches to the right. This is a completely optional prompt. You don't have to do this, but if you want to, and you want to do a little bit of bird watching with your dragon and have a little bit of a moment with them, you know, maybe chasing birds if your dragon wants to do that, or just looking at them and admiring them, you're going to be doing a bonus prompt. You don't have to do this to complete the side quest, but if it's something you want to do to kind of make it more difficult, then I would recommend trying it. For this, it's to read a book with birds or feathers on the cover. Pretty self-explanatory. Like I said though, this is optional. As you go back into the main path and you head up north, you either accidentally find yourself on or you purposefully find yourself on a frozen lake. Like I said, maybe you and your dragon kind of accidentally stumbled upon it and you are now slipping and sliding along the lake, or you purposefully found it and decided it would be fun to just kind of slide along it. For this is to read a fast read, something that you think you can get through quickly. Manga, illustrated books, anything like that, just a shorter book, or something that you just think that you can easily get through, YA, anything like that. As you are getting closer to your destination and you are feeling yourself just frigid to the bone, you are freezing, you are shivering, you see steam coming up from a rock wall nearby. And as you get closer, you realize it's a hot springs. As you dip yourself into it, alongside your dragon hopefully, you will feel nice and warm and just at ease with finally getting closer to your destination. For this, I want you to read a book that will warm you up. This can mean a plethora of different things. You can read a book that's a romance. That might be like make you a little bit blushed up and warm. You can also read something that makes you angry and full of rage. That's why you're read with anger. It could be a fantasy book that just makes you really riled up. Something that just makes your adrenaline pump. If you complete the 4 prompts for this, you'll be getting 2 trust points. If you read 50% of these diversely, you'll be getting 3 points of trust. If you read a ton of books, I would not recommend doubling up on prompts. I would say try to be a little bit more fair. But if you're someone that doesn't read a lot of books or has a certain time frame, I would say doubling up on prompts is completely fine. Next, we're moving on to the middle map, the one that's between warm and cold. Changing of seasons, a place that you can feel different types of temperatures. As you walk through this with your dragon, it feels pretty nice. The air is crisp and cool. It's not too hot, not too cold. You feel pretty comfortable here. After you pack up with your snacks and your water, you go forward, you do your hunting and gathering, you make sure that your dragon and yourself are pretty full. As you cross the bridge, you find your first stop that you're going to put a tent up, make a campfire, and cuddle up with your dragon. The first prompt is going to be cuddle up beside the fire, preferably with your dragon, of course. This is to cuddle up, get comfy, and read something that you think you will enjoy. All you really have to do for this is read something that you think you will like, and make sure you try to get as warm and cuddly as possible. Obviously, if you're in a warmer climate, do this sparingly, but try to be somewhere that you're very comfortable in, either your favorite spot to read in, somewhere with maybe a lot of blankets or pillows, or maybe your stuffed animals, but just try to cuddle up with something, either a person, a stuffed animal, some blankets, some pillows, whatever you want to do, and read something and get comfortable, and just treat yourself, okay? You deserve it. As you wake up, you go down the winding road, enjoying the trees and the beautiful smell of the foliage and the pine around you. You see something in the distance, a little bit of steam coming up from the treetops, so you decide to go forward and check what it is. As you cross a bridge and you get to it and you want to rest for the night, you notice a beautiful cottage that is lit up, and it almost seems like no one's home, despite the fact that it looks incredibly welcoming. Even though it probably isn't the best idea, you decide to stay inside the cottage overnight, and you're okay. Surprisingly. This prompt is going to be cottage comfort. So for this one, you either read a cozy book, so a cozy mystery, a cozy fantasy, anything like that, something that makes you really cozy. You can either do that, or you can also do the other one, which is to read a book with the opposite color of the cover that you read previously. If you don't know what the opposite color is, there's a lot of color wheels. All you have to do is look at the opposing color on the color wheel. That will determine what the cover will be. So that's all that is. This is more of like a changing of seasons. As you're in this cottage, the seasons change. I don't think you're gonna be there that long. I had the imagery in my head of you just staying there and the seasons changing around you. And as you head up, as you get to your realm, you have one more prompt that you can do if you want to. This is a bonus prompt, meaning this is optional, so you do not have to do this. But as you go up, you notice that there is a beautiful flower field, and you kind of want to like lay in it with your dragon and just have a moment with them. Hopefully you're not allergic to pollen, because this might not be that fun. So this is a bonus prompt, meaning this is optional, and this is flower fields. Read a book with a flower or flowers or petals on the cover. Once you complete the 4 primary prompts of this map, you'll be finished the first side quest. If you read at least 50% diversely, you'll be getting 3 points of trust. If you complete the side quest without reading diversely, that's fine, you get 2 points of trust. And for our last map, we are going to be going to a warmer, hotter climate. This sounds like my nightmare. I don't like hot weather, but maybe some of you enjoy the hot weather. This might feel nice because right now it's winter, so going through some warm climates might be nice. After you fill your pack with food and water from real life, you're going to go up and hunt and gather for food for yourself and your dragon. Once you and your dragon are full, you're going to continue north. And as you head up north, you eventually have to stop and camp up for the night. As you camp up for the night, you lay down and you realize that the sky is full of stars. It's beautiful, and you and your dragon have a moment where you just stargaze together. This prompt is stargazing, reaching for the stars. I want you to read a high star read. Now this sounds really weird, but let me explain it. It's pretty much a 5-star read, but I just say high star read because it's a book that you think you'll rate highly. I give my 5 stars sparingly, so I just decided to put high star instead of 5-star because I don't think I really give many 5 stars to predict that very well. So for you, as long as you think that you're going to rate it high, I would say like a 4 or 5, rating a book that you think you will love and adore and give 4 or 5 stars to. As you go up north, you kind of don't really know where the path leads. There's just a lot of sand and dunes, and you don't really know exactly where you're going. So you kind of just keep going up and you realize that you are lost. This is a bonus prompt. This is optional. You do not have to do this to complete the side quests. So this, like I said, is optional. So because you are lost, you are going to have to read a book with a map. This is very easy for fantasy readers, but hopefully there are some books that are not fantasy based. This is optional though, so if you are having a hard time finding a book with a map in it, you don't have to do this. As you go back on track and you realize that you are finally going to the right direction, you go northwest, and as you're going closer, you feel like you see something. And first you think it's a mirage, but then you realize it's real. There is a oasis ahead with water and foliage, and it's just a reprieve from all of the heat that's been around you and your dragon. And you go forward, and maybe you take a dip, maybe you splash some water in your face. You just kind of have that effect that just cools you off and you feel amazing. For this prompt for Oasis, we're going to be reading a book that cools you off. This is up to interpretation, of course. I think the most obvious one would be to read something that is chilling, like a thriller or mystery or horror, although there are people that don't like those types of books. So maybe a book that cools you off between other books. Maybe you've been reading a lot of fantasy. You need something that kind of just like chill, relax. Maybe you've been reading a lot of a different genre that you need to kind of take a break from. Try to be creative about what this might mean, but like I said, there are some more obvious terms like thrillers, mysteries, something that'll chill you to the bone, anything like that. You can even do something with water on the cover or water, like colors of water on the cover. Whatever you interpret this to be, I would say you can probably count it. I don't really mind. Once you finish the 4 main prompts, and if you want, you could do the optional one. You don't have to. But if you do at least the main 4 prompts for this, you will be getting 2 points of trust. If you do this and read 50% diversely, you'll be getting 3 points of trust. So once you finish your map, you should be having a total of either 4 points or 5 points of trust, depending on if you read diversely or not. So if you have gotten your 3rd point, if you have 5 points total right now, you will get your first perk. Now the first perk for this readathon is going to be to add a +2 to your character sheet modifiers. You have +2 in one of your stats and a +1 in another stat and then a -2 in another. If you get this perk, you get to add +2 any of the stats you want. You can add this onto pre-existing ones, so you can add this onto your other +2 and get a +4. You can add this onto your +1 and get a +3, or you can even put it into your -2 and make it 0. That way you don't have to worry about having negative rolls in the future. These stats will be important in chapter 3. We'll be making rolls with d20s, which is just a 20-sided die, and you'll be adding these or subtracting these on your rolls. So if I'm making a roll for wisdom and I roll a 13, I have a +2 in wisdom, so it'll become a 15. If I roll a strength check of, let's say 12 to pass, and I get 11, I would be subtracting 2. I'd be getting a 9. So that's kind of how it works. All you have to do is add and subtract depending on your rolls. This will not be until chapter 3 though, so I don't really have to explain it a lot right now, but this is going to be important for your rolls in chapter 3. So that's why this is important right now. I definitely do recommend trying to get 5 points before chapter 3. That way you have a little bit of a leg up when you start it. So that's it for the side quest. I'm really excited about trying this out and starting this in March, but you can do this anytime you want. You could be doing this in April, May, whenever you're not busy, you can start doing this. You can make this like 2 months long, 3 months long. Like I said, there's no time limit. There's nothing like that. This is just to have fun. In regards to your Excel sheets, I did make a new points tracker for your trust points. I know I already kind of posted this before, so you might already have this on your sheets. All you have to do though is go onto the public one I made myself. Right click on the folder at the bottom. So there are little tabs that you click on to open different folders or different tabs. You right click the tab that you want to copy. What you do is make a copy and place that into your pre-existing tracker that you currently have. Hopefully I can make a little video up here to show you kind of how it looks and how to copy and paste into a pre-existing one. You should do this from this point forward for your other chapters and side quests. I'll probably do a little document to kind of explain this so that way people can understand without having to watch this video. This is a lot easier to do because I'm going to be putting all of my tracking into the same folder. That way I don't have to worry about having like 20 different folders every single time I do a readathon, prompt, side quest, or chapter. Similar to that, if you want to change your color scheme, it's not too difficult to do. Just click them and then press Control and then click the other colors and then change the color yourself. You can also click them all to alternating colors and then change the alternating colors to whatever you want. The bar that increases as you complete side quests and chapters will grow as you continue forward. If you do not want a pink one, just click on that bar, go into the little header, I will show you as I'm doing this, and then choose a color that you want. So write down, instead of pink, erase that, put red, put light blue, put dark blue, put black, put gray, put any color you want it to be, so that way it doesn't have to be pink. I'll be putting this in a document though, so that way you can look at it if you need more help with it, but it is easy to kind of do as long as you get to know it. I didn't know anything about Excel sheets until I made this readathon. I watched a lot of information about it because I wanted to make sure I had some trackers for you all and that they were decent, so hopefully that's okay and it's working out for you. I'm not the best at it, I know, but I've been doing this pretty much almost all on my own. Every single thing I've been doing on this readathon is on my own. It's been a lot of learning process, it's been a lot of work, but I'm really enjoying it. After almost an hour of filming, which is no surprise by me, I am finally finished my side quest video. I am really excited to be getting to this. I'm looking forward to doing it. I really appreciate everyone that's been taking part in this, and people have been sharing it and talking and just being on my Discord. You don't have to be on my Discord, I don't mind, but I just appreciate everyone that's being involved in this. People have been talking about it, posting it, sharing it, just like, it's just been wild to me that my first video has like 500 views. It's crazy. I just appreciate you all so much. The amount of work I put into this, it's not maybe as much work as other people, but I put hours into just these maps. They're not the best, I'll be honest with you. I try my best, and I'm going to continue trying to make documents and make things easy to understand. My documents are a bit long, my Google documents. I just try to make sure I explain everything. They're kind of monotonous, but I really hope they do help. If you have any questions, like I said, go on my Discord. That's the best place to ask. If you have any questions about the side quest and you don't want to go on my Discord, just ask below in the comment section below. I don't mind. I am happy to answer questions. No question is a stupid question. I don't mind answering. But if you have a question though, there is going to be an FAQ for each chapter in side quest. So that way you can kind of see if there's any questions that you might already be answered in there. Any questions that are asked on my Discord that I think make sense to add onto my FAQs will be added on there. So things that kind of I think people might want to know that I forgot to kind of think of. So with that, my heroes and villains, I hope you're having a good time and I hope you have fun with this readathon. I definitely am having a good time making it, and I appreciate you all for being here. As usual, thank you so much for taking part in this, and if you're not, I just appreciate you for being here in general. If you want to take part in the first side quest, you have to complete chapter 1, but once you complete chapter 1, you are golden. You can start side quest 1 whenever you want. I hope you have a good time in March. The Realmathon is also happening in March. I'm glad that these prompts are simple because I would have felt so guilty if these prompts were hard, and there was also Realmathon happening. I completely forgot Realmathon was happening in March. My bad. Hopefully we're gonna have a good time in March. It's my birthday month and a few other people's birthday months that I know of, and so this is gonna be a good time, hopefully. And with that, heroes and villains, thank you so much for being here. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great reading month for the rest of February, and have a great time making your March TBRs, and I hope to see you all soon. Goodbye, everyone.